Michelle and everybody talking, and I never did the actual ceremony.
I skip forward a little bit. Skip forward. Like there's a little bar that he's beginning.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, and we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just before we get into oath of office and appointment of president and vice president, I just wanted to take your attention to action item 11.25. Just want to add the word district in there for substitute teacher pay rate for district retirees should be the title. And then in the recommended motion, just add in the second line, to establish substitute teacher pay rate for retired teachers of the district at $105 a day. That's the only amending to the agenda suggestion I have. Okay, Marie should have touched base with you when you entered the meeting regarding the oath of office. You need to sign that, put your address down there. She will then take care of it and notarize it. And that is the one of your first of suppose many functions that will occur in tonight's meeting that we do on an annual basis. So thank you for filling that out. Item number 4, appointment of president and vice president of the Board of Education. So at this time, I will open the floor for nominations for president of the Board of Education for the 2021-22 school year.
I would like to nominate Don Miller.
Okay.
I would second that.
Don, do you accept that motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
Thank
I've
you
got
very
Todd Nelson making the motion, Tony Nicotera seconding it. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Don.
Thank you, Don.
Opposed?
Thank you.
6. I'm going to trust we have 1 abstention.
Can I oppose?
Twist the arm.
Yeah.
Twist the arm.
Okay, I will now take nominations for vice president of the Board of Education for the 2021-22 school year. Do I have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Anthony Nicotera.
Okay. Second by Jim. Tony, do you accept that nomination?
Sure.
Okay, so that was Don. Jim. Okay, then I will take, can we have a vote? All in favor of Tony Nicotera being our vice president?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
1.
1, all right. We have our president and our vice president. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to our returning president, Don Miller. Don, it's your meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, so we don't have any presentations scheduled for this evening. Next, we'll move on for public to be heard, and I do want to remind everyone that the chat room feature is available. So if you have any questions during the meeting at any time, comments, please feel free to go ahead and write in. And we will come back for another public to be heard at the end of the meeting, but anytime during the meeting, you are welcome to send in your questions or comments. So we'll pause for just a second and give anyone an opportunity to be heard. Hi, Ms.
I
Babby.
just wanted to introduce myself to the folks who are new here. My name is Michelle Babby. I'm the high school librarian and senior class advisor. But I also have the honor of being elected this past year as the new SBTA president. So I just wanted to let you know that you'll be seeing more of me, and please reach out if you have any questions and if I can help you in any way. Thank you.
Okay.
I did have one in the chat room. It just says here, Mr. Original. Is this link going live soon? It is live at this time. You may have to refresh your page, but the meeting link is live.
No one else? We'll move on for students to be heard. We'll pause for just a second. Opportunity for anyone to write in comments or questions.
None?
None? Okay. We'll move on then to Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Okay, under subcommittee reports, I just want to review, actually, let me just back up a second. Everybody should have received the Board of Education contact information. Please take a moment to look that over, make any corrections, and be sure to give that to Marie by the end of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting, and we'll make those corrections, and then we will get out the final version to everybody. And if there are no corrections, this will be the final version. Okay, under subcommittee, this is the time of year we review our board subcommittees. In these subcommittees, especially for our new board members, these committees are used anytime that we feel that there's something maybe new on the horizon, something new to report out on various facets of the district. And we will usually get these committees together to kind of discuss that with those board members choosing to be on those subcommittees, and usually talk with the people that would be providing that information. For example, facilities. If there's something coming up with facilities that we want to at least take to a committee level, Mr. Parker would most likely lead that discussion or be a resource for that. Curriculum stuff could be with our building principals and other resources we have here and those natures. So sometimes we will look at some things at a committee level, then bring it to the board. We always report out at least what was discussed in those committee meetings. But we meet on an as-needed basis. So just to give you a heads up of what those are about. And I'm going to, in a moment here, I'm going to ask to see who wants to be on these committees and ask that we hold it to no more than 3 board members, because anytime we get 4 board members together, that is considered a quorum. And we can't have that. So unless it's a public meeting in that sense. So with no further ado, I'm going to just mention we have board operations, relationships, and development. Currently on that was Dawn Miller and Todd Nelson. You 2 wish to stay on that?
Yeah, I'm good
And
with
do we
that.
have any new interest? Okay, we're good with that one. Facilities and transportation, we have Dawn, Anthony, and Todd. Anybody wishing to come off of that? Do you want to stay on that? Is there interest for others to be on that?
I'm good. I'm okay with that.
Okay. We'll put that. Technology, we have Ron Critelli and Jim Deaver. Ron, Jim, you good with
I'm
that?
good with that.
Okay, anybody else want to join that group? Okay. Extracurricular activities, we have Todd Nelson. And I know some of our board members. Okay, Mike, would like to be on that?
Excuse me, Judy, will you turn here too?
Okay. That's that, and then Judy. Okay. And curriculum and instruction, we have, that's wide open. So
Yeah.
we got Judy. And Mike. Anyone else?
I'll go on
Did
that one too.
What's that?
Yeah.
Did that mean a lot last year then? Not really.
No,
Okay, I just wondered, it's not regular meetings.
no.
No. I'd be glad unless somebody else.
Well, we got Ron and Jim.
I don't, it's up to you. If you want it, you can take it. Yeah, I'll take one of the other ones.
Okay, so Jim?
Instruction.
Policies
Okay.
wide open too.
Yeah, I'll take the policy one.
Okay, School Boards Institute, we will fill that in during the meeting. I'm just going to ask that, or actually, at this time, I'm going to ask, do we have, we need a delegate to go to represent our board at the School Boards Institute, and we also need an alternate. Now, School Boards Institute is an organization of, that basically is a local organized board initiative that gets board members together, and they will have executive level committee meetings, and those meetings, and Tony, you can help fill in the blanks because I know you attended a lot of them. They come up with different types of programs throughout the year, typically 4 to 5 programs, maybe 6 sometimes. If it's not once a month, it's at least, maybe 2 meetings every 3 months or something to that effect. It usually doesn't go every other month. And they come up with different topics to talk about. A lot of times it'll be budget stuff. It could be some curriculum stuff, some initiatives in the state or what's coming out of Albany. different things of those natures. They usually have a legal update on some trends in legal trends in education. They typically do every year. Tony, can you think of anything else?
It's hot and cold. There's some months there's quite a bit going on. Other months it's relatively lean. When there's an election, if it's an election year, there's several meetings with area representatives who are vying for those offices. So we set up the program and we invite the candidates in, they do presentations. If it's a non-election year, it could be relatively quiet in November. And this year, I know every year in the spring, we rotate between Oneida, Madison, and Herkimer BOCES. We do a reciprocal program where they highlight programs throughout their BOCES, and we're all invited there as kind of like a fair type presentation. They're all interesting. It's just sometimes there could be several in one month, and other months it would be maybe one, if that. And I'm willing to continue
Okay.
if we can have an alternate, only
Okay.
because
Sometimes you
it wears you down
Yes.
sometimes
Yep.
when there's a lot going on. So
Right.
I'm more than willing to do it. I've done it for several years, and I can continue for a few more years.
Okay. We'll put Tony down for that. Who would like to be an alternate?
And here's the thing, excuse me, Mr. Wheeler.
Yep.
I know Mr. Deaver, everyone has come at one time or another. So if it's not just one alternate, if
Well,
it's, oh,
Right,
you need
it's
one,
an alternate to attend, like, this is for the attendance at the executive meetings.
okay,
Then there's those general membership meetings where the entire board can go.
okay.
Usually I will let you know, or Marie will let you know through an email of when they are. Typically, it's on the agenda under my reports, those wishing to attend, especially if there's a sign up and we have to give them an RSVP. If you're interested, we'll let them know. And usually it's, was it 5:30 check-in, maybe late snack,
Yeah,
or
late
6 o'clock,
snack.
somewhere around there. And then they're usually done, they usually try to finish it by 8 o'clock. So, but this is just to have our designee for that. Mike would like.
Something to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
Mike, you'll hear about every district,
Great.
the ups, the downs, the good, the bad,
That's okay.
and you meet good people.
And maybe he could attend at least with you
Sure.
to a meeting
Yeah.
just to kind of get acclimated and then. Yep. All right, very good. Add that. Policy committee, Ron, you said. We have anyone else interested in policy committee? One more, going once? Okay, if you change your mind.
I'll go on.
Okay. Todd?
I see Todd, you're on 3. I can go on it if you need.
Whatever.
We
I'll
can
do
go
it.
3 if you want. We'll go 3 if.
Well, no, I mean, he's already on 3
Yeah.
committees, so
Okay.
I'll take it. I'll
Okay.
do it.
You can
Because
put
Tony
that on.
picked up the
Yeah.
SBI, so I'll pick up the policy.
Okay, and then the last 2, you don't have any choice. You all get to hear about the audit and the finance stuff, and it's usually something we may have before a board meeting. A lot of times, if we do meet for these subcommittees, they will be usually before a board meeting. At least maybe 6 o'clock. If it's something really short, maybe it's, 6:15, 6:30, we'd start and then come into the board meeting. But, all right, well, thank you very much for your help in getting through that. We will get this out so that everybody knows which committees they're on, and thank you very much for your interest. All right, Don. That's it for board subcommittees.
Next, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Okay, well, I got ahead of myself. We did take care of the addresses and phone numbers. We just did the subcommittees, and we also did the SBI representatives and alternative. Last thing, just graduation, future for graduation. And first, I want to talk about this year's graduation. I thought it went extremely well. It was a windy day, but we were outside. It was very well organized. I think I don't remember if you, in your introduction, if you mentioned that you were senior class advisor, but Mrs. Babby and Mr. Sheldon organized, do the layout for the graduation and really get the kids in order. They do a rehearsal. We did that on Thursday. The kids come in, they kind of go through the motions, and then the day they do really well. So they do listen enough. They do take it very seriously. It's one thing we stress. And, you know, I was looking at our bleachers and saying, I think it can hold everybody. And I would say we were at 70, 75% capacity, maybe 80. There was still quite a bit of room. You know, we had a couple people sit on the side hill. I think we had a four-wheeler up behind the fence, you know, but, you know, those who wanted to come were able to come. It was very well done. And we would like to certainly continue doing that outside. And there is a suggestion to consider doing that on Friday night. And I think as we started doing this last year, because it was the only way we could hold a graduation in person, albeit 3 separate ceremonies, it was very well done last year as well. And I think a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to the outside venue and kind of setting up, I think, for a more traditional ceremony where we thought we would, you know, would be best suited for this. And we always have to rely on the weather. And I think the plan will be is if we feel we can get it and maybe get enough people here without restricting it too restrictive, we'd love to certainly try to do it in our auditorium. Our gym space, we've always had an open graduation and it's always held everybody. So we kind of know that you know, that can work certainly in the gym if we have to come inside due to inclement weather. But we would certainly like to give the auditorium a shot if we could, but we'll continue to review that. So just to the board, I'll share that, you know, what I heard from, and I think this was in collaboration with Mrs. Babby and Mr. Sheldon, but Mr. Reed, our high school principal, shared through various conversations he's had with students and parents, they felt that the ceremony under the lights would help incorporate the sunset as well. Potentially could be cooler. Sometimes the evenings are still hot and muggy, but 10 in the morning could be hot and muggy. And that day could have been too if it wasn't for the breeze we had on Saturday. Another reason thought was that it kind of opens up that Saturday for celebrations. If you have the ceremony on Friday night, it kind of gives everybody that full Saturday to work with and not feel like, well, we got our child's ceremony in the morning and that'll get done, 11 noon. And then we got to scramble back and get things ready for the celebration. And then maybe some people won't use that Saturday, but if we open it up, that could also be a possibility that was also shared. And I think those were some of the things, just try to, maybe capture more of the beauty of having something in the evening overlooking the valley, and doing that on Friday. But it's long been a tradition of graduation, at least since I can remember being here since 1999. But it's always been held in the gym as well. So we have rocked that tradition a little bit by going outside. But thoughts about the potential, because if it's something we're interested in doing, we want to make sure we get it on the school calendar.
How are the acoustics out there, Ron? I didn't, I watched a little bit online, but so how, and in that big stadium.
I think they were fine, yeah.
Yeah.
And even with the wind, I think, everything, I know at least listening to others, I guess I wasn't paying so much attention to what I was giving my speech, but listening to Mr. Reed, listening to Mr. Ferner, and our valedictorian and salutatorian, I could hear them well sitting on the field.
Yeah,
So I would hope
good.
at least the people in the stands would hear it just as well too. So no, that went very well.
And from my point of view, it was a lot better than it was in the gym, because it was hard to hear where we were sitting,
Yeah.
which was behind the
Podium.
Yeah.
Did we get any feedback from the juniors or incoming seniors, how they felt about potentially moving the ceremony?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I do want to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. No, yeah.
There's been a lot of, we've heard a lot of voices from students saying that they're very interested in having it in the turf. It was something different. It's
Yeah.
this big, wonderful
Oh.
football field. You have the gorgeous Sauquoit Valley all around you, so they were very excited about it. I have not heard anyone say, gee, I wish we had it in the gym. I'm sorry, those words are not, yes, good night. Gee, I wish we had it on the turf. Gee, I wish we had it Friday night when it's cooler. Definitely hearing that, but the gym, it's not a favorite at the moment, but we will do whatever it is you guys
Yeah.
ask us
Oh,
to
no,
do.
no,
Of
I
course.
tell everybody, always know the hottest day of the year will be the 8th day, would be the great of eighth day moving up ceremony,
Yes.
it's always at least 95 degrees. So I concur with the heat. I think you're gonna wrestle with that no matter if you're outside or inside, because we've been in the auditorium and, you know, at least outside, like you said, Ron, you get the benefit if you do of
If
a
there's a
nice
breeze,
breeze, you know, so you're kind of, no, whatever. You know, there's nothing wrong with change. I think sometimes it's nice to, I know it's tradition, but things can change and times have changed. So you're right, the stadium's beautiful and the view is beautiful. And I think sometimes it's nice to kind of put a little bit of a spin on something and change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Friday nights, I think that's a good idea from
Yeah.
the side of, like Ron said, the parties the next day. You have a lot going on, just trying to plan that and everything else. So splitting it up like that, I think that's a good idea.
I think the template of the organization of your program was excellent. I didn't watch, you know, I didn't study my watch, but when you finished looking at what time it was perfect. People weren't restless, kids weren't restless. I think Mr. Deaver made a very good point in the email.
Yep.
That I think really is a very significant idea that you presented, Jim. But that's something we could talk about with Michelle and
Yeah.
Ron later.
Right, yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
adding or changing anything of what you had, it's not broken right now. We had a lot of compliments on how smooth that went and how efficient it went. And your speakers were clear, articulate, well prepared. I thought it was excellent.
Another thought is, when the kids come off the stage, you know, there's a couple of steps down, and a lot of them are wearing like super heels, you know, and it would be really not a great life memory that I fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
It might be a good idea just to position somebody, you know, maybe standing nearby there, whichever way it is, just the down part.
Gotcha.
I agree.
It's not broken, that's
Yeah.
for sure. It was perfect.
No, I think, and I might as well bring it up here, is I know Mr. Deaver had mentioned, and that is something we actually talked about briefly after the ceremony, was the, you know, we give the awards the same time they're receiving their diploma, but not every kid's getting an award. So we would like to actually use that time that at least everybody, there's a consistency, not just your name being called, but perhaps adding, you know, one thought was adding where they're going, what their plans are for next year. You know, it could just be as simple, plans to enter the workforce, plans to go to MVCC, plans to go to, you know, this college or that college or the military, but something along those natures. So when they come up, their name and recognizing where they might, what their plans are for the near future. You know, and then they could dismiss off the stage, because I think it was a little awkward, you know, some standing up there. Of course, if they had, you know, 7 awards, they were up there a little bit longer. Others, it might have been 1 or 2 awards. So great point, Jim. Good catch on that. It was something we did discuss briefly right after the ceremony, and I'm sure we'll try to incorporate something.
I would just like to say I thought it was an outstanding. It's my first one. I was fortunate enough to go. Last year I went, but I was more of a parking attendant than someone that actually participated. But I support going to Friday nights wholeheartedly. I think it does free up because I do think it's nice outdoors. I think you can accommodate a lot of people that maybe a rain date is Saturday morning, and then if you can't get it in Saturday morning, then you could go either to the auditorium or the gym, whatever you're going to do. But it gives you 2 opportunities to get outside. I agree with Tony. I thought the program was excellent, well put together. Just a couple of suggestions. I think if we can come up with something to block the wind around the microphone, I think that would really help out. You know, something cardboard that looks nice that has our logo on it or something like that. I think that would really help in the acoustics. Next year, hopefully, we will be able to broadcast the graduation. If we're going to have it on the stadium, it will be able to be broadcast. The other thing is I really appreciated the faculty that showed up to support the kids. I just thought it would have been nice if we could have recognized them and acknowledged that they were there, you know, and introduced the faculty that's there. I think they're a big part of every kid that's gone through there. And I would also like to see our 2 other administrators from the middle school and the elementary school, Mr. Madden and Mr. Putnam, down and be recognized as well, because I think everybody had a part in getting the kids to this point in their life. So I just think recognizing those individuals is very important. And other than that, I think it's a great opportunity. And I appreciate Ms. Babby and Mr. Chaldon and all the work that you do. It's really,
And Mr. Reed too. I
And
just
Mr.
have to
Reed, yes.
Shout out to Mr. Reed, who
Yes.
played a very large role in putting that all together.
Yep.
We can't claim all the credit.
so excellent.
Okay. So if we decide Friday, people are comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay.
What time would you consider?
Good question. I don't know. I guess if you're looking to try to get a little more evening into it or darkness, I mean, we certainly can turn the lights on or they could be on. And if they come into play as we approach an 8 o'clock hour, they're there. So I'm thinking probably 7, maybe 7:30.
And I think that's good. I think just to take into consideration, you do have grandparents as well as parents who may have to travel a little bit. And to get out of work at 4 or 5 o'clock and be here for 6 o'clock graduation.
Yeah.
If you moved it to 7, I think
Yeah.
you allow for
Yeah.
that flexibility, Mr. Wheeler. Just my thought.
Okay.
So the last couple of years, I've suggested the idea of the class inviting one of the faculty to give a short address, much like the salutatorian and valedictorian do, brief, but I think I'm all for anything we can do to dignify the role of educators at this time, and where they sit and how they come in, and anything that we can do that would be an encouragement to them coming, reserving seats, thinking along those lines.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for my update.
Okay, next we'll move on to old business. We have capital project updates.
Yep, nothing new to report out. I know we're meeting with the architects on July 22nd, so to try to, I think, further refine the scope. So we will hopefully have a report out, a little more information at our next meeting.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to new business. I'll read 11.1 to 11.38 as a consent agenda. If anyone has any questions or would like anything pulled for further discussion, please let me know. 11.1 is appointment of the following school district officers for the 2021-22 school year: tax collector, clerk, treasurer, census enumerator, school attorneys, school physician, attendance officer, and school auditors.
Okay, Dawn, just
Yes.
one, if we
I'm
kind of
sorry.
just recognize, we do
Yep.
need to exclude because we are not appointing a census enumerator. So
Oh, I
we didn't indicate it
apologize.
down below, but it does in that,
Doesn't?
in the motion. So
Thank you.
if that could be,
Stricken from.
Stricken,
from the
yep,
motion.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. 11.2, appointment of claims auditor for the 2021-2022 school year. 11.3, approval of deputy claims auditor. 11.4, designation of depositories for district funds. 11.5, authorization of board member and district officers to sign checks. 11.6, appointment of purchasing agent for the school district. 11.7, appointment of coordinator of federal funds. 11.8, authorize the superintendent of schools to grant approval of staff members attending professional meetings and conferences held during the 2021-2022 school year. 11.9, appoint the superintendent of schools to certify payrolls. 11.10, authorization of superintendent of schools to approve budget transfers. 11.11, designation of time and place of Board of Education meetings. 11.12, designation of official newspaper. 11.13, appointment of extra classroom fund officers. 11.14, authorize the control of all deposits and investments by district treasurer. 11.15, appointment of Board of Education representative to the School Board Institute Executive Committee. 11.16, resolution to replenish general fund petty cash in the district office in middle school. I'll give it to you. 11.17, Resolution adopting BOCES Career and Technical Education Advisory Council for the 2021-2022 school year. 11.18 disbursement or disposition of interest earned on student accounts. 11.19 surplus equipment. 11.20 readopt all policies, including the Code of Ethics for the 2021-2022 school year. 11.21 approval of credit cards. 11.22 appointment of Dignity Act coordinators. 11.23 appointment of asbestos LEA designee. 11.24 substitute teacher pay rates. 11.25 substitute teacher pay rates for district retirees. 11.26 substitute pay rates for school-related professionals. 11.27 rate of pay for tutoring. 11.28 approval of lease agreement Head Start. 11.29 resolution lead evaluator certification teachers. 11.30 resolution lead evaluator certification principals. 11.31 appointment of substitute building maintenance mechanic. 11.32 approval of stipend for Committee on Special Education Administrative Assistant duties. 11.33 appointment of substitute teacher. 11.34 approval of leave. 11.35 extend retirement date. 11.36 resolution authorizing payment of bills approved by the claims auditor. 11.37 approval of minutes of the June 22nd, 2021 meeting. And 11.38 Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations. There's a lot in there. Last steps. So does anyone have any questions? Would they like anything pulled for further discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Wheelock,
Yes.
on 11.26.
Okay.
Could I just ask the question or?
Yes.
Okay, I was looking through the contract, but is there a stipulation? I know how you talked about the substitute rate for retired teachers from the district. Is there something in the labor contract for school bus drivers?
There is language in the that just in the school-related professionals contract. It does say any retiree who returns to work for Sauquoit Valley in their role that they left the district in would receive the same amount of pay that they had when they left, plus 1 year in the contract. So it's almost like they worked another year, they would get that. So there is kind of a
I remember
retiree incentive to that.
we negotiated
Yes.
it.
Yep.
So are we okay if we adopt 11.26 the way it is? Because that would not, or should we add?
That 11.26, nope, 11.26 just recognizes those who are not retirees. The contract recognizes the retirees
Okay.
already.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then 11.35. I would just like to thank Mrs. Wuthauser for staying with us through September and hopefully resolve that vacancy.
Yes,
So,
same here.
thank you.
Ron, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was gonna say I had a question on 11.21. So we have a MasterCard that you only have authorization to use, and then we have a Home Depot card.
Yes.
So I know, I would understand Steve, why would Joe and Keith, why do
For
we
their
give them?
for their technology classes to purchase supplies,
Oh, got it. Okay.
especially for their
Got it.
any of their construction
Good
classes.
instructions, I forgot.
Yep.
Okay, not thinking, all right, great.
I had a question about 11.26 under nurse. This is substitute pay rates. Is the nurse calls in, someone substitutes for her? How does that work?
Correct.
Like, so if Mrs., who's our nurse in the elementary school?
Mrs. Day.
Okay, so if she doesn't come in, someone who comes in gets $17.96 an hour.
Correct.
Okay,
And if we can't, then we usually just call on the other two nurses who are in district that
Okay,
day
yeah.
to cover, but it's
Okay.
usually good to have a person in each building. Good question.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody else want anything pulled for further discussion? No? All right. Then I'll need a motion to approve 11.1 to 11.38.
So moved.
Tony, I'll need a
Second.
second, please. Todd? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Move on. Next, we'll move on to miscellaneous topics.
I have one. Going back to graduation, sort of. I was really impressed with Mr. Ferner, right? Was
Yes,
our student that kind of was
class president.
class president. So in thinking beyond that, I thought he did a great job, and I just thought it would be a great opportunity to have a student representative sit here at our board meetings. And whether it, starting with either the senior class, the junior class, whether the student council, I don't know how active our student council is, or them, or any one of them, if they want to rotate. I just think it's important for a student to be here and be invited to this board meeting for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's a great experience for them to kind of learn how government works in the school system and things that we talk about here. And number two, I think more importantly for us, it's an opportunity to get that opinion from the students themselves. I mean, we sit here all the time and we think we know what students want. I would like to hear what the students want or what they say. So I would like this coming year to give a seat, just like we all have here, with a nameplate, student delegate, whatever you want to call them, and invite them to rotate it around. And I know activities come up and the same person might not be able to make it, but there's 4 class officers in the senior class, 4 class officers in the junior. I'm sure one of them can fill in if someone can't be here, but I think it's important on both sides to give that opportunity. So I would like to make that recommendation moving forward for this coming school year.
Thank you, Todd.
Mhm.
Any other miscellaneous topics?
Is this, I just want to clarify, that means we can speak
You
at
can
this time?
speak, yes, yes.
I know I brought this up as a non-board person about a month ago. I know I had asked you, Mr. Wheelock, about this New York State Regents recommendation for diversity inclusion,
Yes.
which is like New York State's CRT. I know you said you may look at some guidance on that. I wondered where we were. We're
Yeah,
approaching
no,
September soon. And
Good
that's a
question.
concern for
Well, this is, it is pretty significant. There's certainly multiple viewpoints on various sides of this issue. So the state has, much like when they roll out other types of initiatives or programs, and I'll reference back when we went to, they didn't do it so well with Common Core learning standards, but when we went to the next generation learning standards, they were more about breaking it up in phases, raising awareness, then building understanding, and then implementation. And they're taking the same type approach with this. And I think that's a very, regarding this topic, I think it's a prudent approach to take, because I think there's a lot of understanding that needs to be gathered. Before we certainly go forward and say, hey, this is a direction that we're looking to go in regarding, culturally responsive sustaining education, which is synonymous with the, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Or inclusivity. So, that's, I think, where we need to do is kind of really hone in on that, raising the awareness, understanding what it is and what it is not. And there's going to be different viewpoints on whether, we can come to agreements on those kind of things. But in the end of the day, I think it's important that, we are, we get ourselves, I would hope, in a culture where we can certainly create an understanding and respect, and hear multiple perspectives on all things education. Ultimately, we're preparing our students for the world they're going into. Maybe not necessarily the world we're in now or the world that we maybe were raised in, but we are building our students for their futures. And in some ways, or shape, or form, we need to, I think, make sure that they understand what that world, is outside of Sauquoit. Sauquoit, I don't think any one area may be indicative. Well, there will be certain areas. I think we all know where there's certain cultural melting pots within our country. But many, suburban rural areas may not have as much of that cultural diversity that they can attend to. And I think it's a really, important issue, or maybe I won't say issue, but an important measure that we can take as a school district to just make sure our kids are familiar with that and not kind of go out into society once they graduate from here and say, boy, I've never been acclimated or never understood this or never had a sense of, what diversity might lie out there. So I think, right now, we should take that awareness approach, gain that awareness, build our understanding, and then how do we implement it that best suits Sauquoit Valley?
So
is
who
the
had, so when this occurs,
Mhm.
does this board vote on that?
I'm not sure as far as where, unless there's certain policies that come out of here, but definitely I would want the board to be an active part of this. And certainly, if as we gain our understanding or build our understanding, I would want to incorporate board members on those types of committees. And that's where, some of these board committees that we talked about earlier would come into play in work like this. So certainly, I think there's a lot to be gained, a lot to be understood from this. And I know that there's more and more resources that keep coming out to, I think, help support the work that lies ahead of us in this.
Thank you.
Sure.
So just to clarify Mr. Sacco's point, and I feel, and I would like to know if I'm correct or incorrect on this, is that the DEI stuff that's coming from SCD is what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think there's also that critical race theory curriculum that is out there as well. And I think some people are getting them blended.
If you've read the document, it's the same thing. I don't know what anyone's theory is on psychology. I can talk about it all day. It's the same thing. If you've read, I've read the New York State Regents. Have you read the document?
I have not read it in detail.
Okay, you would want to read that and understand how that works, how it would work with young children or, any child. So, I mean, people will disagree with me and that's okay because we're adults.
Right.
But I don't think it's as harmless. And diversity, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Being inclusive, absolutely. Not teaching people to hate each other based on, 1619 or whatever, because this all rolls together. So it is kind of the same. It's just New York State Regents' version of what that is. When I came, I'd asked folks about it if they had read it, and two of the folks weren't here, but I suggest that you get that document and you read that and just take a look at what the state is recommending. And it's a recommendation. It's not a law. It hasn't been voted into law, but like I'm a clinical social worker. Okay. I'm all over. I've worked in prison. I've worked in psychiatric hospitals, you name it. And I understand diversity. That's not what this is. So that's I would imagine if you would read that, maybe I'm in this committee with a couple of folks, you might want to look at that. That's all.
And I agree with you, Mr. Sacco, and I said this the night that you brought up this question is, I think as a district, we need to get in front of it. We don't need to be behind and being dragged forward. We need to get in front of it, what we think DEI is or what we think our kids need to be educated on. But I don't think they need to be separate.
And you are
one is a curriculum.
There we are in a rural district, absolutely. And people have to have an understanding of the real world, without a doubt, 1,000%. And I would lead that charge. I just think it's a little bit different. You see what's happening, and I don't want to compare us to what's happening around the country, because there's a lot of really bizarre people out there. The problem is a lot of parents, especially, I'm sure they're listening, and I hope they are, is no one comes and gets information. They come after and complain about things, trying to get people involved. If I was to hand the New York State Regents document to 1,000 people, if I handed it to them, most people wouldn't even read it. Right. But they would come and become hostile and agitated after the fact.
And that's a good point, because I think without reading it,
absolutely,
they're going to draw conclusions based on insignificant information or not enough information and not fully vetting it. And like you said, they may still then say, nope, this further confirms how I feel. Others may see, okay, I can see it from a different lens. And I think that's the approach, is having an open lens and looking at this, and that no one theory should be what's being subscribed to here. And I think that's the work that we have that lies ahead of us.
Absolutely, and without a doubt. And people shouldn't take my word for it. Please research it and look at it. I'm just one person.
The DEI document from SED is what you shared with us
Yes.
as a board.
Yes.
Thank you,
And,
Michael.
yeah.
Sure.
And if there's more stuff that's come out, I can certainly forward it to you, but there was a pretty lengthy document,
Yeah.
probably almost 60 pages, I think, that I believe I shared with you. And if you don't have it, please email me or I'll be sure that you get it.
It's in one of the folders.
It may be, I want to say, you know what, I will forward it to you anyways. I'll directly email it to you in an attachment.
Yeah, because I agree with Todd, and when these things come, like, for example, when we went through the Common Core stuff, we were a little behind we were reacting to the things that were being sort of funneled down, and we've had in the past times where we've had to kind of be a buffer almost between some things to make things the best for our kids and our community. And the only way to do that really is to get ahead of it, like Todd is saying. So I'm interested in reading it.
Well, and to that point, the next generation learning standards had far less scrutiny and issue with the public. But that very well could have been that it just wasn't named Common Core, because Common Core was kind of shoved on our plate, and they didn't, and even state ed officials used the analogy, we're building the plane while we fly it. And with the approach of Commissioner Elia, when she was in office, was to let's get out there, let's get public input, let's build our capacity, let's get a map on when we want to roll things out. And some of that's been pushed back because of COVID. Where we're supposed to be in line, we were starting to engage and get in deeper discussions regarding that prior to COVID hitting in some of our professional development discussions. And, we hope to re-engage that discussion and kind of get people, hopefully we can have consistency on getting our kids back in person in September, we hope. And then we can start building our capacity back towards where, the direction of building our understanding and our instructional strategies for the new learning standards. The state has been pretty flexible about pushing out when you're going to be responsible, at least on a test for any state test for this new standards. But we need to get back on that train and go forward.
Now, do all of our Dignity Act representatives, in the school, are they all up to speed on this document or whatever?
I don't know if all of them, are. Like I said, we're kind of early into this stuff, and I think we should be very deliberate. I appreciate getting ahead of it, but I think deliberately getting ahead of it and being careful, maybe how far ahead, we get in some cases. But I think that at least that's my point of view at this point is we need to work on it, but be deliberate in our approach. Because quite frankly, there's a lot of schools that are very similar to us around us. We're all kind of having this talk, at least as superintendents. So there's a lot of getting deeper understanding that we're reaching out to from getting whatever resources that are available. And some of this is going to be not like, hey, this is what everybody's doing, but it'll be a good idea to kind of get a sense of what similar communities are doing. But ultimately, we need to do what's best, what we feel is best for the kids at Sauquoit. So while that can be perspective and help guiding us there, ultimately, that's what we need to do.
So we'll sort of be formulating a game plan for this area. And there may be things that we're already doing that'll fold right in, because if we have something like that, we could reflect that we're meeting the requirements.
Right. And I think that's where building that understanding, that awareness will help in that. Because you're right, there may be many things that we're doing already, or just some things that we need to tweak, or just to try to pay more attention to, be a little more, thoughtful as far as how we incorporate something responsive to that. So
There are diversity programs out there that are not based in critical race theory.
mhm,
And there are other places that are using them.
right.
Mhm.
Yep, it's certainly an interesting topic.
Okay, we're good then. Any other miscellaneous topics? Next, we'll move on for public to be heard. Ron, do we have anything?
Me too.
Okay.
Have it. I'm not sure if Mr. Original could identify themselves, because we do ask if those who are here in person to identify themselves of, for the public to be heard session. So I'm not familiar with who Mr. Original is. So if you could identify yourself in the chat room, I'd be happy to share some of the questions that you had here.
I did have something that I wanted to address Mr. Nelson's comment about having students come. It would be okay to say that now? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle. Yeah, no, we're waiting. I was just trying to see what's going on here. So yeah, absolutely. Public to be heard. Go right ahead. Yes,
I
please.
just want to let you know, sir, that Ms. Powers, who is our incoming student council advisor, has in fact plans in the works to require her students on a rotating basis to come and be members of the audience at the board meeting. So I just wanted to let you know that she was also thinking along those same lines.
Excellent.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, it's Mr. Jerry Taluki who is in the chat room asking some questions and some clarification. So Jerry, thank you for identifying yourself. Let me get to the, all right. First comment was student representatives are a good idea. However, I would caution that student roles are well defined as able to provide feedback and not have the ability to vote on board matters. Just to that, I know I don't know them specifically, but I know there are some parameters as far as having a student representative on a school board that they are, held to. And I don't believe they do have a voting power on this, but I will research what are some of the various capacities that students could serve on a board. But thank you for that feedback. Also, to define if student representative would be allowed to participate in executive session, would rather see a primary, potentially alternate, rather than the rotating from any other student officers. They would not be allowed into executive session. That I'm pretty certain of. And I think to your point of a rotating person is probably having a representative that's kind of stays attuned to what the board is then discussing on an ongoing basis. Maybe more prudent to have one representative to share their perspective. Certainly rotating students to attend board meetings is certainly another thing, and that's certainly always welcome. The next thing Mr. Taluki had is, can the board clarify the DEI comments from the board members' Sauquoit pushback to this curriculum? Specifically, what is at issue? And then, is document available online? It is available online at the New York State Education Department. You should be able to find it there. But I don't know if it's a matter you couldn't hear him, or I guess just if you want to summarize.
I've never been told, I've never been heard. I'm very loud. Well, I think Mr. What was the gentleman?
Taluki.
Mr. Taluki, that's our mic.
Yes.
I would take a lot of time probably describing certain things. I think that, like Mr. Wheelock said, it's the New York State Regents. You can search this document for DEI. That would explain it. And my issues with that are very clearly stated in each bullet point when you read that document. I'm not sure like what the question is.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Taluki, if you want to clarify specifically what you mean by what is that issue? And maybe I'll wait to see if we get a clarifying answer or question. Or just respond if that answered your question.
While he's coming on, I'd just like to clarify that I didn't say this in my recommendation or my suggestion but I did not expect the student to have a vote here. you know, or nor did I expect them to be in executive session.
Actually, thought they were gonna just fill in for you, Todd, if you weren't here.
Okay, no further comment from Mr. Chaluki. If there's none other in the chat room at this time,
All right.
we can move forward.
Do we have an executive session tomorrow?
I do not, unless you have anything, but I nothing new to report out on, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, great meeting. Thank you. I want to welcome our new board members. Thank you very much for coming on board. And I know it's a lot to take in for the first meeting, so at any time, if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to any one of us. Mr. Wheelock will be more than happy to help you answer. And sometimes we throw terms around that, you know, we've used for a long time and like, what the heck is that? You know, so, but thank you so much. So at this moment.
Before we adjourn, I'll just, we did just get Mr. Chaluki here. I will review the document. My comment was in feedback from the board discussion on the topic and what was at issue. If there are recommendations to add DEI to the curriculum, and that was at issue. At this time, that's what we're certainly discussing is what impact or how that fits into curriculum, but basically how does that just fit into the culture of our district. So I think there's still, it's important, again, I'll reiterate that people become more aware of the topic of, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And it's also synonymous. You may see stuff that speaks to culturally sustaining responsive education. I believe those are kind of synonymous in with the DEI stuff, but you know, we still need to continue to raise our awareness and build our understanding, and then see how it fits into our district, whether it's through curriculum or how much is through curriculum, how much is built into culture, and different things like that. So it's important to get a better understanding of what it is and what it is not. And then certainly have rich discussions on how we move forward in our district. So thank you. And Mr. Chaluki, thank you for your patience with us on the chat feature. So I think that's it from the public.
Okay, thank you. All right, then. We're all set. We can have a motion then to adjourn at 8 o'clock.
So
Jim, second, Ron? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
Great. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Turn the mic off before we say it.
Yeah.